Tired of searching for podcasts? Try Storio, the only app you need to discover and follow podcasts from across the world. Get curated podcasts and playlists every day and listen to what your friends recommend. Share what you love and find what they love. Check us out on storivyowedge.com/boom. Download on App Store or Play Store.
Storio.
Before we begin our episode, a quick shout out to Hubhopper. Hubhopper is India's very own podcast app with largest directory that brings you thousands of unique shows and stories from every imaginable genre. You can now listen to your favorite podcast Audiogyan on Hubhopper, that is HUBHOPPER. So go ahead and download the Hubhopper app from Play or App Store today, and if you like it, review and share it with your friends. And now, starting off with your show.
Welcome to Audiogyan with Kedar Nimkar, a podcast that documents insightful conversations with Indian designers, artists, musicians, writers, thinkers and creatives of all types. Catch us on iTunes or visit audiogyan.com for more Gyan sessions. Here's your host Kedar Nimkar.
Today I have an actor, director, writer and a legendary theatre person who needs no introduction, Rajit Kapur. He's well known as Byomkesh Bakshi, but we are not here to talk about any of it today, since all I could find in the Google top results is people asking him about Byomkesh Bakshi as a character, which has lived in the hearts of people for last 20-30 years. Today we are here to speak about nuances of being an actor, be it Munna's big brother in Gulham or Manik Mulla in Suraj ka Satwaan Ghoda. Thank you, Rajit, for giving us your time, and it's a real honor to have you on Audiogyan.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah. So, sir, I've come up with few questions, and basically the premise of our topic will be like nuances of being an actor. So, the first thing which I want to ask you is what is the process or evolution of taking a particular character from its literally representation, which is actually written by the scriptwriter or the director, or to the actual stage performance? I mean, this is mainly in the context of theatre.
Well, from that page to the final performance, the most important ingredient, or whether you call it process, is really the process of rehearsals.
Okay.
And that's where a play really takes shape, because of the trial and error you do through the period of rehearsals.
Mm-hmm.
The approach for an actor or for a director may vary. The number of hours you put in as to how you stretch yourself or how you play with the text before you narrow down or, sort of decide and make up your mind about what you really want to keep through that process of rehearsal and what you want to remove or eliminate. So that whole process of trial and error of literally using yourself as a rubber band, the elasticity of your performance really is dependent on that period of rehearsal.
But what goes into? I mean, it's tough to comprehend or articulate in given your long experience. But still, what is the process like?
What do you mean?
As in, you go through the lines and then you try
You
to
have
come.
to. It's a question of reading the script together. Again, it depends on the director's vision. Does he see movement? Does he not see movement? What is that he wants to explore through the text? So essentially, it's that exploration of the text through rehearsal that gives you final shape, or that gives any play any shape.
But this is in then context with play. So I mean, then what could be the process of developing? Because you have played in multiple mediums, TV, web.
Right.
So what changes happen when you are working in a different medium? I mean, if I have to just articulate that in a shorter question, rehearsal versus facing the camera.
Well, there's much less of a process involved there. It may be the actor's work that is done at home. Many times the director does have readings, or the director will set guidelines, and sometimes that so-called process of rehearsal may actually happen on the set.
Okay.
In front of the camera, for the DOP to see how a scene is being conceived, what the actor has to offer before it's kind of okayed by a director.
No, but in terms of continuity of the character, what goes on beyond? Because when you are performing on stage, you do it multiple times, and the character evolves as the more shows you do.
Right.
But it's different with film, right? So how do you maintain that character?
But that's the job of an actor.
Yeah, I mean, I want to like to know the
No,
nuances of it.
there is no one way of doing it. Your approach to any character that you do is different, and there cannot be one way of doing every character or even multiple characters. So a lot is determined or mapped out by the director or by the text, and that happens through the process of discussion. I, as an actor, may have a certain point of view, but the director may not agree with me. As an actor, then I have to follow what the director wants, because finally an actor is really fulfilling a director's vision. But the enjoyment and thrill that you get on stage through that process of rehearsal is something you really miss when it comes to the camera.
Correct.
So you're relying, as far as the camera is concerned, you're also relying a lot on your instincts. Of course, pre-decided things are there, worked out with the director and you, but then essentially you're going with your gut feel as well. There's not that much of that explorative time
in camera.
Yeah.
But if you have any particular anecdote or any particular character you wish to tell that this was the process of evolving that character. I have a follow-up question on Gandhi, but yeah.
I can only give a small example. There was many years ago, I did a play called Veronica's Room, where all of us were playing double roles. And one of the characters, I felt that something was not working in it, and we couldn't figure out why. And after about 10 or 12 performances, by mistake once, I had the wrong shoes.
Okay.
And they happened to be sneakers and instead of formal shoes. But it brought a bounce to my character when I went on stage. And that was what was actually missing, which we realized later. So something like the pair of shoes changed the walk. By the walk being changed, there was a certain bounce, and suddenly there was a new energy in the character. And it made a world of a difference. So it could be something as silly or as mundane and as simple as that.
The character was supposed to play, or the earlier character had the sneakers?
No, I was given formal shoes, but those were not there.
Okay.
So when I wore the sneakers, it changed my character.
Interesting. Just going further into the same question, you played Gandhi, for which you got a national award also. So how much creative liberty you had while working on this historical figure? I know we had a discussion around this, that a character is a character, but still if you want to just slightly get some insights into...
In that particular case, I think the important thing was my experiments with truth, because that was what the director gave me and said that's what he wanted. The director, Mr. Benegal, was more interested in the mental turmoil of the human being.
Okay.
Yes, we dealt with physicalities. We had makeup tests. But now I don't look like Mahatma Gandhi in any way. But still, it was important. I have a very deep cleft that had to be covered with wax. It was very clear that Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi has ears protruding outwards. So he put wax behind my ears to make my ears flap outward.
Correct.
But I didn't work on my nostrils to make them large, because that would have made me uncomfortable as an actor. So we did physically what was necessary and what was comfortable for me.
Okay.
To come close enough to try to look like him. But there was no that I have to look exact like him. Then sometimes the tendency to, if you go overboard, can maybe lead to imitation or caricature. Yes, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi had long arms. For some reason, I realized I have too. Now that was just ironical. But he walked very fast, so my walk was fast. So physicalities, to the extent possible, we used to get closer to him.
Correct.
But the main important thing from the director was that I want his inner conflict to be portrayed. That was the core. So that was the focus.
Interesting. So how different it is, say also fictitious character Byomkesh Bakshi. So how different it is to work on a fictitious character versus a real life character in case of Gandhi.
But as I said, in a real life character, you are determined by certain physicalities of what you know, what the director wants.
No, but in terms of
In a
research,
fictitious character, you can play along. But again, the director will make his choices. Does he want you to develop a laugh? Does he want you to be crazy?
okay.
How are you restricted? In a thing like Byomkesh, I had no idea. But what restricted me to a certain extent were the costumes given. So they become an automatic restriction to how you play. So if I've got a dhoti, then I can't prance around like I'm in trousers. So they automatically restrict your movement, or they color your movement in a different way. Those become the restrictions. And the rest, in this case, I had the freedom to interpret him the way I like with my director's permission.
No, but like whatever you are saying right now sounds like more from a physical boundaries or those constraints, but there could be certain constraints from a script standpoint or your thought process standpoint. Like Gandhi wouldn't go all out in doing this. So I understand that it's a director's job to control the character, but from your standpoint, are there any things which you have put as your constraints?
No, I don't put any constraints.
Okay.
Let the director do that. That's his job.
Okay. So can you tell us any particular character which you played in which you allowed to play yourself outside the boundaries?
I don't understand. What do you mean?
So there is a written script which is given, and there is a particular plot, and everything is given. But as we spoke, the character evolves as we go along while doing more shows, and then you realize some subtleties about the character. Yes, that he could smile in such a way, or and that's where you tend to explore as an actor.
But I think that happens with every character on the stage. It's not restricted. Because when you do more and more shows, you explore that character more. You come across other nuances as you go along, and you grow with the character. Actually, it's only after 10 to 12 shows that your character actually begins to take shape. And the thrill of doing more shows is that you develop it as you go by. And that is why you enjoy it more. Because if you become complacent that all right, I've done my job, bas bahut ho gaya, then you will not grow and that character will not evolve. The fun and the thrill of working on stage is that you continue to find new things in that character.
If you have any example, say in case of Flowers, or the one I have at least seen in One-on-One where you play the defense guy, like can you explain or can you give an example of where it started and how it evolved?
Well, I'll give you an example of Love Letters because simply it's a play that we've been doing for 26 years. And the fact that Shanaz and myself still enjoy doing it is because sometimes we are discovering new things even after 25 years.
Wow.
And it could be a small gesture, it could be a mistake that happens on stage which becomes so real. Even that, the thrill and joy of finding something new by mistake, it's also,
Gratifying.
Quite gratifying.
Yeah. So this is slightly an abstract question. Like I've personally observed this, that theatre artists are respected in general in the industry also. So can you tell us something like for the listeners that upcoming artists, what can they learn or what can they understand, or how can you make them sensitive about these smaller nuances and get into being an actor? And
then you have to go through the process of rehearsal. And in terms of them being respected, I think it's purely because of theatre discipline that is attached to theatre actors. Because of the process of rehearsal, because of your constant trying to explore a scene, a moment, a character, there's a certain discipline that also allows you to think with a larger perspective. And that is why it is easier for a theatre person to be able to adapt to change of situations when you're working in front of the camera. Because an actor who's worked on stage, because he's constantly approaching or doing a role for 3-4 months, is easily able to adapt and change to the surroundings.
Discipline here, you mean to say just the rules or the foundation of which theatre is there, or there are more to?
I think it's a discipline of concentration, a discipline of focus, and that is what theatre allows you to do, which you bring on the table when you work in front of the camera.
I was listening to this talk by Shehnaz ma'am on DSM, where she said that today's generation is actually not as disciplined as like people from like your generation, where you reach before the rehearsal. So that's just a peripheral thought which I was just thinking about.
Well, there's a lot more enthusiasm in the new generation. As regards the discipline, it's quite possible because the 20 plus something young mind also is looking for short-term game or shortcuts. There are no shortcuts. You have to build that wall brick by brick to strengthen yourself as an actor.
So, sir, I would like to ask you one more question, which is Rage Production hosts playwright workshops, writer's block. So, can you tell us more about what is the process like, and describe its benefits for young people, so that maybe who wants to come together and...
Well, there is no such program in India at all the way we organize writer's block. This is in collaboration with the Royal Court Theatre in London and the British Council in India, supported by the Jindal Arts Foundation. And it's we don't do it every year because it requires funds, and not many people are willing to give funds when you really get nothing in return. But it's important to encourage that young mind to write. We don't have writers. We may have lost an entire generation of writers. It's a year-long process where we have mentors coming down from UK, and firstly to select a few people, and we cannot have more than 15 writers selected across the country. The program began by being Bombay-centric, then involved Pune, and now it's an all-India process. And we go through at least 3-4 sessions. The writers, the selected writers, go through these sessions with the mentors, and then they have to develop a full-fledged play. And then we try to raise funds also to ensure, at least to try to have every play performed. It doesn't always happen that all 15 are performed, but invariably we try then to find a director and maybe a production house to allow the writer to see his writing performed, and then they can take it further.
Yeah. Any particular play which has come up out of the writer's block? Or?
Many.
Yeah.
We have had 4 such writer's block programs. From the first one, we had a play that Rahul Dakunia had written called Pune Highway, which performed all over the world. In writer's block 3, we had Jinns of Eidgah written by Abhishek Majumdar, which then was picked up by the Royal Court, and they had their own production, which was in that particular year the highlight of that year in UK.
Interesting.
And on the Hindi front, we have writers like Akash Moiman, who wrote Mahua, and the last writer's block program, Asad Hussain wrote a play called Nakash, which I directed, which was really rich, because even Hindi writing is unfortunately, my point is, not many people are writing in Hindi, which is also a very sad state of affairs.
Correct. And you also mentioned just now that we've lost a generation of writers. Why do you think so? I mean...
I don't know. Maybe because they're not encouraged to write.
Okay. And about Hindi, and this I've also asked Rahul sir as well, that like there's a different light in which English theatre is seen, at least. So why do you think it has a different presence in terms of it's not as widespread as Marathi theatre is, at least in Bombay and Maharashtra?
But that's because English theatre was looked at as very elitist kind of theatre. Was only there maybe in Bombay or in the metropolitan cities. Marathi theatre has a culture going back decades and generations.
Correct.
English theatre at one time was just, replicated productions of what people had seen in UK or in America. But it's only later that Indian English theatre has now come of its own. And one of our productions written by Rahul, I'm Not Bajirao, was I think, quite instrumental in bringing about that change.
Correct. Yeah, I've taken a complete interview with him. All right, I think these were the few questions which I had. Just want to ask you to conclude with any inspirational things which you would like to address to upcoming artists who want to come up in theatre.
It's a gut feeling. If you feel that this is your calling, then you have to just go for it. And it is a lot of hard work. But then you have to love it enough, or as we say, you have to be mad enough for it to be able to pursue it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. It was lovely talking to you.
Thank
you. I wanted to be slightly longer and have more conversation, but yeah, just given the questions which I had for now.
Sure.
Thank you, sir, once again. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And that's it from today's Gyan session. Catch us on iTunes, Saavn, Stitcher or any podcasting app you use. Do rate us on iTunes and follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Stay tuned for more Gyan on Audiogyan.com. Till then, bye.
If you don't think you can afford health insurance, think again. Now more than ever, New Jersey is committed to making sure everyone has access to affordable health care and understands their options. Health plan rates are down nearly 10% this year, and we could help you find a plan that's right for you. You may even be eligible for financial assistance to help pay for your plan. But remember, open enrollment ends December 15th. Visit getcovered.nj.gov to get started today.